That brings us to Texas. We're under the orders of Donald Trump, somebody who could give two shits about all of the people who just died after the July 4th flooding across this state. Said, hey, Texas legislature, I know y'all are trying to do something to maybe make sure that there's early warning systems or that we invest in our flood infrastructure. Throw that to the side. I need you to rig the elections in the state of Texas so that I can protect myself from the oncoming wave of dissatisfaction as more and more Americans are waking up to the fact that Donald Trump and the Republican Party represents the bosses and the billionaires and the enemies of the working people. I need to make sure that we limit their ability to affect change in their government. That's what Donald Trump asked of people like Greg Abbott. And somebody like Greg Abbott said, I'll jump as high as you want. I'll do whatever it is that you want. And this is what they've pushed, right? Everybody made it abundantly clear at the get-go of this recent special session that if we want to get any kind of action for the victims of the flooding, they need to do it up front. And they did. They pushed this nonsense, right? So I just wanted to, as we get into all of this other stuff, I want you to remember those children who drowned, those two little girls who were found holding on to one another, that they're secondary to Donald Trump's political career in the minds of Texas Republicans, and just how sickening and disgusting that is. Now, we can get into some of the facts here. People have probably seen the headlines because it's become a national story. They are trying to gerrymander this state. Texas is already one of the most gerrymandered states in the country. These maps that they're putting forward, they're trying to make it so that Republicans would win around 85% of congressional seats in the upcoming election. Just to give people like a kind of general sense of what it would look like if we had like fair representation, Republicans would hold around 58% of seats. So this isn't, they're just trying to put some things in their favor a little bit. They're trying to set themselves up for a situation where fuck the 42% of Texans who might go the other way. We only want those people to get 15% of the representation, right? We talk about this. This is American tradition. We find it objectionable to have taxation without representation. But that is exactly what Trump and the GOP are pushing here. So in response, because the Democrats for decades have been so weak, they don't have the ability to push back against this. The Republicans do have the majorities necessary to put forward this, frankly, illegal attempt to gerrymander the state further. Reminder, by the way, that these maps aren't up for redrawing, right? They are taking, they're making a special exception, saying that actually the old maps that we approved, the Republican Party of Texas approved and drew up, were illegal, right? That's the kind of argument that they're making, which is complete bullshit on its face.
Yeah,
So,
it's all just making stuff up. And the law says you have to do it once after every you have to do it after every census. And they said, well, it doesn't say you can't do it twice after the census, though.
So it's a complete joke. So to prevent them from doing this, Democrats have fled the state. I believe it's 51 Democrats have fled to multiple different places: Chicago, Massachusetts, New York City. And this this attempt at gerrymandering is undoubtedly illegal. We talked a little bit about how maybe it could backfire because of the fact that despite what Trump and a lot of people think, it is not. Texas is not so automatically conservative, right? There is a potential, particularly if Texas Democrats were a little bit more serious about winning and started running progressive pro-working class candidates instead of the chicken shit people like Colin Allred that they've been running in the past. It could be very competitive here. And what the attempt is to spread out the votes of Democrats, particularly people who live in the majority of the population centers of the state: Austin, Houston, Dallas, San Antonio, et cetera, right? This is an attempt to try to diffuse those votes so that the rural voters, which have now become so solidly Republican, will be able to kind of outweigh them, right? But that does mean that some of those safe Republican seats that, maybe are like 15, 20, 30% pro-Republican will be a little bit more marginal. So even if they have an advantage, it means that Republicans would have to run. So there was already some pushback from congressional Republicans in the Texas GOP, just because they didn't want to have to be bothered with campaigning. We'll see about whether or not that's able to backfire. But until then, this quorum is ongoing. And I just want to, we can talk about some of the response from the GOP and Greg Abbott in a second, but I just want to kind of break down for people, if you're curious, what it would take for Texas Democrats to win on this. So what they have done is they have broken quorum. Quorum, by the way, breaking quorum is a protected right in the Texas Constitution. It is a tactic just as legitimate as the filibuster is in the Senate. Right? You might not like it, but it's something that has been established. It is not a kind of new idea or anything like that. It's been done time and time again, actually, in the state of Texas. What they would need to do, though, is they would have to refuse quorum, as the governor calls special sessions, for probably around 3 sessions. They would have to run the clock out until November, when the 2026 filings have to go in. And if they can wait that long, if they can take it down that long, that would mean that the maps as they are now would have to stand at least for the 2026 election. And that's what they're going to try to break and prevent. Now, that would require, if 12 Democrats return to Texas, then it's all over. And this has been a problem in the past. The Texas Democrats are not a very united bunch. It doesn't take too much to pull somebody away. They could be kind of pressured, and we'll get into some of the political and legal pressures that the GOP is putting forward, or they could just kind of be like, I need to get back home to do this or that. So it's a big task if they'd be able to do it. And we'll have to see if they are able to. It'd be good for democracy, it'd be good for the U.S., and it'd be good for Texas. I think that it's fairly unlikely that they'll be able to hold out as long, just given the kind of commitment we've seen in the past from certain folks. But we'll watch. I want to get into some of the stuff, unless you had anything to add about what they're trying to do to bring them back in, because this is the kind of thing that's very worrying.
Yeah, no, just continue with that before we talk about the gerrymandering broadly.
Oh, yeah. So what they're doing right now, and I have this video here. This is from the Texas Ledger just the other day.
Being 85 ayes in 6 days, the motion prevails. The Sergeant at Arms and any officers appointed by her are directed to send for all absentees whose attendance is not excused for the purposes of securing and maintaining their attendance, under warrant of arrest if necessary, until further order of the House.
So that's a call on the Sergeant of Arms to compel people in Texas. They don't have the authority, obviously, to cross state lines to do that. They have been trying to petition the federal government to get involved, which would, again, be a huge violation of our political rights. Now, this is the thing, though, that is kind of next level here. This is from Greg Abbott. Greg Abbott put out this statement recently. Today, I took emergency action to begin the removal from office of derelict Texas Democrat Texas House members who refused to show up for the special session. Now, I want to be clear and fair about the legality. They do have the right, and it has been established. They do have the right to arrest and compel somebody within state lines to show up at quorum. They have the ability to do financial penalties, which that's why the Democrats are fundraising right now to sort of cover the costs of the financial penalties. They do not whatsoever have the right to annul an election. This is an extreme power grab here. And what legal basis do they have for this? I'm not making this up. His citation is the cockeyed and crooked Ken Paxton's legal theory that he cooked up just a couple years ago, right? So no. This is illegal under the Texas Constitution, under the U.S. Constitution, and under just the umbrella of common sense. The people of Texas elect our representatives, not Greg Abbott, not Ken Paxton. And we should take this as a joke, in the sense that this is an absolutely laughable assertion by Greg Abbott, but we should take it absolutely serious that we are seeing a governor threaten to remove people from office, elected office, because he doesn't like the political positions that they're taking. To give people who might not understand the kind of ins and outs here, it would be like if somebody in the Senate did the filibuster. Hell, man, it might be annoying, we might not like it. And the U.S. president said, we're going to remove them from office, right? It is, quorum breaking is protected under the Texas Constitution. This is not something that you have the ability or the right to threaten people's, elected position.
You don't get to represent all of the people who voted you into office anymore.
Yeah. No. I mean, it is a total joke. And this would have to go through the courts. And remember, because we've had decades now of Republican rule, this is a system of folks who are extremely loyal, including the Chief Justice of the Texas Supreme Court, who Greg Abbott has said in the past that he put them in that position because he wanted to always know which way a legal decision would go. Um, so that's democracy and corruption in the state of Texas. We can get into some of the gerrymandering stuff, but I did just want to add one thing that is extremely nasty, and I guess shouldn't surprise me at this point because all is kind of possible in Texas politics. Remember the little nasty fellow Briscoe Kane, who, as they were pulling bodies out of the river, drowned children, was tweeting about how we cannot allow this to be used to grow government. This is Mays Middleton, who is a Texas senator, who said about Gene Wu, and Gene Wu is the leader of the Democrat caucus in Texas, says, "Is Gene Wu back in China?" And I just want to make sure that we highlight that nasty little ghoul here. So, these people...
Little fucking pricks, man.
Absolutely. These are people who don't care about the rule of law. They don't care about the Texas Constitution. And they certainly want to make sure that there is no kind of uproar like we saw in Nebraska. They want to limit people's ability to criticize them, right? They want to limit people's ability to push back against these public servants, people who should be serving the people of Texas, right? And that would mean showing up and doing something about all the flood victims instead of doing the bidding of the bloated billionaire Donald Trump, who wants to rig the elections because people are pissed about the fact that they're unable to afford food.
Yeah, in the context of the inflation shit just getting worse, and all of a sudden it looks like the economy walked off a cliff, you're talking about how to stack the next election. It's such a low, scraping the bottom place when it comes to so-called democracy.
100%. And, so do you want to talk about some of the Republican influencers who are trying to defend the gerrymandering? So this is a moron by the name of Jessica 05, who's working hard, defeating wokeness, one post at the time. Might be a little bit more about common sense here. She's got a nice big audience, still around 500,000 followers. Thank you, Mr. Musk, for that. So she says, this is a, quote, real Democrat district in Texas. This is what a stolen House seat actually looks like. And ostensibly she's saying this, I don't know what she thinks she's saying here so this is the current seat. And the person who is in this seat is Greg Casar. Greg Casar is a Texas progressive, former city council member of Austin. And if you see here, let's see if I can make this a little larger for y'all. His district absurdly goes all the way from Austin to San Antonio, two completely different cities. That's not a natural political community. That is an attempt to pigeonhole, to put together large population centers so that rural Texans and Republican voters can control the seats of West Austin, have access to other parts of San Antonio, right? This isn't something about, representing like an actual place. And so she's absolutely right. That does look like a gerrymandered seat. It's gerrymandered by the fucking Republicans, you moron. You guys don't even know anymore what it is that you're supposed to be arguing for. Because this is abundantly clear here that yes, these are gerrymandered seats. The Republican Party did it, and they're trying to do it again. But unlike Casar, who has this kind of weird seat, which is trying to limit votes in San Antonio and Austin, they're trying to just pack all of Casar into one area so that they can cut up Austin even more to advantage Republicans, right? They don't even remember the fact that these are the maps that the Republican Party put forward just a few years ago that they gerrymandered to favor them in the first place.
Yeah, I mean, that's the thing is there's only so much juice you can squeeze from this. And it is a menacing attack on democracy. But the stupidity of this is, I don't know if you saw this. This is Kennedy, the former MTV VJ. She had some comments, and let's see if you can just find the little mistake here.
Right.
It's like TDS off the chart.
Yes.
It's all about them versus Trump. And why? Because they're so thirsty politically.
Yeah, but this is why California is a monoparty state. That's why Democrats have a supermajority. And, it's like That's why they have two Democrat senators. That's why they have a Democrat governor. And, it is such a massive majority because of this type of
Do you want to take that one, David?
What is she talking about?
She's saying that, California the reason California is so blue is because of gerrymandering, and she cites a couple of offices that are elected statewide in the Senate seats and the governor's position, which you cannot, of course, gerrymander because it's whoever's in the state. But this idea, like, they have Trump derangement syndrome. The only reason we're talking about
It's because he ordered it.
Exactly.
And this is documented. This isn't a secret. He's asked for it. He's talked about it. He goes and he says, they need to make me a good map. They should make me a good map. What the fuck are you talking about? The Trump derangement system. They are following the orders of their boss.
Yeah. Like, why are we talking about this now? It's because Trump wants to. And like California and New York actually do have independent commissions that they are going to axe now, because it is clear, like, you can't unilaterally disarm. I agree with this. Like, they have to make Republicans in their state scream that you do not want to get in a race to the bottom on this. Like, I don't know. The problem is I don't really see unless the Texans can hold the line here, but a race to the bottom seems kind of
Oh, it seems like
inevitable.
exactly what they're going to have to do. I mean, we'll probably just see gerrymandering. Unless the Democrats decide not to fight. But it sounds like we've gotten moves from plenty of Democrat governors that they're going to push it. So the democracy in America will get more and more absurd.
Yeah. The good news is it's been pretty absurd to begin with because of the states on the Democrat side that can do stuff, like Maryland, for instance, doesn't have any commission. They could just decide to do what Texas might decide to do. But they've already basically stacked it to the point where there's no more juice in that, because politicians, they didn't just start gerrymandering now. Right? Like, and like we talked about it when this first came up, like, there is a liability there too.
Yeah.
Like you say, and you start complaining about, like, what Greg Casar, why is he? Well, he's a product of you trying to make several seats safer for your guys.
Exactly. And there is a big assumption here, by the way, that the Rio Grande and South Texas voters will continue to vote Republican in the way that they did historically, right? Breaking from tradition, for Trump in 2024, right? That could get him. We're going to go over post game for a second, but maybe I can just a quick one. So San Antonio is basically set up to lose representation, right? As gerrymandered as these districts are, we're basically getting to a position where there's like 4, and then how much is it even really for? I mean, look, we have a part that goes through San Antonio and goes all the way, larger than most of the states that y'all are watching, goes all the way to El Paso, which is 6-7 hour drive.
All those guys have a very personal relationship with their representative, I'm sure.
Yes.
Flying through there at 80 miles an hour.
The Austin area, which, as we were just looking at earlier, has that kind of bizarre Greg Casar district that goes all the way down to San Antonio. It also has Lloyd Doggett, who's my representative, who's in this kind of South Austin area. And then you got Chip Roy and a bunch of other people who Republican, who have these kind of staggered districts. What this new district plan would do would basically eradicate, the Democrat seats, except for one super seat that would probably be Greg Casar's. As you see here, this is not a reasonable. This is a political constituency that apparently you can walk over, because if you see on the left side is that green, that's not a mistake. They weren't lazy here. It's because that district goes all the way out far off into East Texas, and you see you have to really zoom in here to see, which looks like, I mean, there's literally a short road that you would walk over, so they had to carve out to gerrymander this district. I mean, anyone with a brain can see how absurd this is. Houston is just a fucking mess, as is Dallas. So this is absurd on its face, and you have to oppose it, because this is an attempt, as we talked about earlier. The numbers that they're trying to get here is to make it so that 85% of seats in Texas are Republicans, despite the fact that that is nowhere near reflective of what the partisan makeup of the state is.
Just can't wait till we have. It's just, I don't know. We have more beautiful districts to look at.
I know, very excited.